Hello. Welcome back to Talk About It. My name is Anna Wiskus. I will be your host today, and I am so grateful that you are here and you're joining me. If you are brand new to Talk About It, welcome. It is a postgrad centered podcast that posts every single Wednesday, and I am so happy that you are here and you're joining me today. All right, my people, I feel like I need to start this episode with a public service apology. Um, I am so sorry, Minnesota. You can blame me 1,000% for the snow that we are getting today. My last episode, I was so confident in the weather. I was, saying how much Minnesota loved us and, just how grateful I am for the warmth. And now I'm looking outside and there's like 4 to 5 inches of snow and counting. I am sorry. I'm so sorry. I got really ambitious and really excited for a second there and spoke a little too soon. You'd think with how many years I've lived in Minnesota, I would know not to get too excited about the weather in February because we at least have 2 more blizzards in us before it actually decides to get warm and stay warm. So I'm sorry. You can blame me 1,000% for the weather that we are experiencing today. Not fun, not fantastic. And just not cool. Sorry. I'm hoping it melts fast. But I felt like the need to just apologize because I very vocally stated how excited I was and how I was feeling lucky for spring. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. But hello, you guys. Hello. Besides the snow that I'm experiencing, how are you guys? How is life? How's vibes? I've talked about this topic, but like bare to none. Like I've barely talked about this topic. But it's one that I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time actually, when I created a notes list of topics that I don't want to forget to talk about. This was at the top. This was literally at the top. And so I'm really excited to talk about it. And it's kind of inspired by a movie that came out this past year on Netflix. Okay. So we're kind of going to like dive in and just kind of use that as our inspiration because it kind of re inspired me to really want to talk about this topic. And this has been something that I've been feeling like I've been lacking. And I kind of want to wake myself up with it and just kind of live vicariously through my words as well. So let's dive into this episode, shall we? If you have been searching for a fantastic movie to watch and you are someone who likes rom-coms or book adaptations, I highly recommend The People We Meet on Vacation. It's a new one from Netflix. And when I tell you I've been obsessed with this movie, I've watched it 4 times. I love it. Never read the book. Really want to read the book though, because apparently there's some things that are missing in the movie that are fantastic in the book. And yeah, I love the movie. I love the people playing the characters. I love the storyline. I love the visuals, everything about it. Everything about it, I really like. And so, first, fully recommend it. Second, I really loved the character Poppy Wright. If you are not familiar with anything about this movie, anything about this book, let me just explain to you the baseline of who this character is. Poppy is a very large personality. She is someone who, from what I've kind of picked up about her, is very free-spirited, likes to live her life as much as she can. She's someone who travels a ton, doesn't like to stay in the same spot. She was from a small hometown and just, didn't like it. And so her whole dream and her whole aspiration is like to get out and about and to do things outside her comfort zone. And she's a very yes person, in my personal opinion. And she's a big personality. And I really liked that about Poppy because I can also be a very big personality. So I kind of related with her in a lot of ways and just kind of was feeling very inspired. Like after I watched the movie the first time, I was like, okay, I need to book a trip. Like who's going to book a trip with me? Actually, I have a trip booked every single month up until June so far. I have 2 more trips I'm trying to book. But I just really liked how they laid her character out. And I liked that she was a lot. And I liked that she might not have been everyone's cup of tea, but the more that you got to know her, the more that you fell in love with her. And that's kind of like the consensus of her and this other character, Alex. Their friendship didn't start, off to the rockets, right? But over time, like they really, really became really close friends. And you'll have to watch the movie or read the book to figure everything else out. But it was just a beautiful character story, in my personal opinion. I really liked her character and I fell in love with it. One thing that it really inspired, and one thing that really came to my mind when I was watching this movie and relating to Poppy, was the concept of being too much and having a big personality, and not everyone liking it, but the beauty of it is that it's not for everyone. And so that was something that I really liked about her and her character. And I have always been someone that's been a lot. I've always been someone that I'm a very loud person, very loud. That's honestly one of the first things that people kind of see about me. They take note about me. It's one of the things that I love that I'm a coach, because that is literally like my thing, is being the loudest person in the room and cheering for the girls. Like, I take full pride in that. That's not everyone's cup of tea though. And I'm someone who, because I'm loud, volume management can be difficult sometimes. And so, like, I don't really understand how loud I'm being. Sometimes, like, my laugh is really loud and it can just be annoying. And I've had to face a lot of people that have tried to quiet me and don't want me being the full extent of who I am. Even regardless of my volume, I'm just someone who tries to be very bubbly. I like to be a big personality. I feel like this is something that kind of really resonated with me a while ago, but Dove Cameron came out in an interview a long time ago, or maybe it was like a couple years ago or a year ago, but she came out with this interview, and one thing that she was saying was her ex at the time told her that people liked her more when she said less. And she realized, like, from that moment, that she really loves when people are in the fullness of who they are and they're true to who they are and they're the biggest that they are. And she's a firm believer that not that everyone who you're around can be the biggest, brightest version of themselves. No one needs to dim their light because someone is big. And that's just always been something that I've also really, really agreed with. And this movie was something that I was just like, I relate to this character. I love this character. I love her spirit and I love her energy. It's inspiring because I want to be more like her and I want to be more full of myself. And yeah, I think that that's just kind of what really inspired me with this episode. Was Poppy was the kind of character and is the kind of character that doesn't really apologize for who she is. She is very secure in herself and loves to be in the fullness of who she is. And that is something that recently I have found myself kind of dimming just a little bit and falling short of. I'm not necessarily less than who I was, but I do find myself not being in the fullness of who I am a lot more than I would like to. And so that is what this episode is going to be on. It's going to be about embracing your muchness, living in the fullness of yourself, or for better terms, living like Poppy Wright. This one I can tell is going to be a really fun episode. And so because it's going to be a fun episode, I got a Diet Coke. This is crisp and I'm so excited to sip on this. Oh my gosh. So, cheers, okay? Cheers to you, cheers to me, cheers to us, cheers to this episode. And cheers to this weather. Sorry. Love you guys. Hopefully that kind of like warms things up for us for a little bit. But cheers. I can't wait to dive into this episode with you. I hope you love it, and I hope it speaks to you and all of the good, fantastic, wonderful things in this world. Yeah, cheers. Let's hear this. Woo! Zooey mama. That was good. Zooey mama. You guys know that? Zooey mama. That's from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Weird vocal stim. Okay, I'm gonna move on from that. Okay. There is always going to be people who want you to be less. There is always going to be people who want you to be less. There's always going to be people who judge you, who make you feel embarrassed, who make you feel uncomfortable with living in the fullness of who you are. As someone who has a big personality, I've experienced this my entire life, whether that's from friends, whether that's even from family sometimes, whether that's from coworkers or people surrounding you or just strangers. There's always going to be people who want you to be less. And let me just say this to you. Screw them. The only reason they want you to be less is because you are so full of life that they are not able to comprehend it. You are so full of energy and excitement and uncertainty in the sense where you can just do anything and you don't even have to try with who you are, that they're intimidated by that because they can't even find 10% of who you are as a person, of your personality. They can't even fathom having as much energy or as much joy or as much excitement as you do. There's always going to be people who want you to be less. Screw them. I have always been afraid of judgment. Growing up, I have always had a slight fear of judgment, which is why throughout high school, through college, I morphed into the people around me and I let my true self kind of hide away. I obviously had friends that I was able to be my full self with, but in terms of everyday life and making new friends and meeting new people and experiencing new things, I was so afraid of what people would think of who I was that I shut everything down about me to morph into the version that they would like. But what I found out was people gravitated towards me more when I was living in the fullness of who I was. When I was the loudest version of myself, when I was the most energetic version of myself, when I would do the crazy things and dance my heart out on the floor and be inclusive and be the biggest, brightest version of myself, that's when people would gravitate towards me. When I would be the passenger in a car that would be jamming out to music, singing at the top of my lungs, that's when people would gravitate towards me more. Not when I would just agree with what they would say or do the activities that they enjoyed as well. Those are valuable, but people gravitated towards me more and they liked me more. And people remember you more when you live in the fullness of who you are. The people who judge you, because let's be real, there's always going to be people who judge you. The people who judge you don't know how to be like you. They can't even comprehend how to be like you. It's not in their nature. It's not in their blood. So screw them. The fullness of who you are is so rare. It's so different than the people next to you, than the person behind you. It's so different than your friends. It's so different than your families. There's always going to be people who don't want you to live in that fullness because it's so different. But here's what I have to say to that too. Every time I didn't live in my fullness, every time that I made myself less so that someone else can be more, every time that I felt embarrassed by who I was or from being as loud as I wasn't surrounded by the right people. Anytime I felt that way, the people who I was surrounded with years ago, no longer in my life. They didn't truly like me. They liked the idea of me. They liked the stories with me. They liked me once in a blue moon when I would be less. But every single time that I made myself less and every single time I wasn't living in the fullness of who I am and who I was at the time, I was way more miserable. When I was living for other people's approval of me versus of who I knew I was miserable. Once I took myself out of those scenarios, I quickly realized that I wasn't living in the fullness of who I was because I was embarrassed of who I was, because the people around me made me feel embarrassed of who I was. When I would laugh too loud in a movie theater at a part where no one else was laughing because I found it funny, they would shush me. When we'd be talking and my voice would get a little too loud without me even realizing it because I was super happy, they would quiet me down. They would tell me to turn down the volume, like verbally. They would tell me to turn it down. When I would laugh too loud or say anything too loud, I've had friends who have visibly covered their ears in front of me to make me feel like I am being too much. I'm a loud person. Okay, girl, I'm a loud person. Okay, seriously? my husband, my future boyfriend, my friends, bring some earplugs. I do not care. I have now become so content with who I am. I am not embarrassed about being loud, okay? I am not. I try really hard to be socially aware. Obviously, I think that's like a very valuable thing to have. But to the people who've made me feel like I am too much for being loud when that is one of the most beautiful things about me, screw you. Oops, T. Sorry if that's rude. Newsflash. I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. This is the fullness of who I am, and the right people will love me because I am loud. Hello. They will love me because I have such a big personality, because I talk with my hands, because I'm super expressive on my face, because sometimes I can't sit still. And I literally will jam out in a car, full volume, full blast, not worried about breaking my speakers. Sorry, Dad. But the right people will literally love that part of me. That's the part of me that they will love. And I realized that I used to be embarrassed because I didn't love myself in the full version of who I was. I wanted other people to love me, but I didn't love myself. I was so embarrassed by who I was and the most that I could be that I settled for friends and people in my life who were also embarrassed by that version of me. See the pattern? Because I was embarrassed, I settled for people who were also embarrassed, who made me so much more uncomfortable with being who I was. Some people can't take who you are. They can't take you in your fullness. And that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. If you are being yourself, if that's all you're doing, you're being yourself, why would you shut yourself down? What's so wrong with that version of you? Here's the thing. I think we do that because of the people who have shut us down in the past. And I have been doing that recently. Oh, calling myself out so bad. I have done that recently. Yeah, I have seriously shut myself down way more than I would like to because of all the healing that I've been doing this past year. It's been very internal and it's made me very serious. And I miss just kind of like living. Like I miss living. Just being myself. You know what I mean? Experiencing, living, learning. I became so serious that I cared so much about the parts of me that are deep inside of me that I just stopped being my authentic self. Does that make sense? Like I was drilling so much on the version of me that's internal, that like is deep within me, that the first layer that people were seeing of me became a reflection of how deep I was getting with myself. I was getting so deep with myself, which is not a bad thing, but I've been becoming very introverted. And I hate it. Like, I really hate it because I'm such an extroverted person. And I know that that's because I've been like, okay, I need to be careful who I socialize with. I need to be careful about who I let into my life. But I think one of the most beautiful things about me and one thing that I just love about myself is that I am just so vulnerable with people. And I like to be open with people, and I like to talk deep with people, and I like to share my story. And my story is my story. I'm not ashamed of anything that's happened. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of being a big, bright ball of like a rainbow and just like bouncing off the walls. I'm not ashamed of that at all. Like literally not at all. And so like I've been noticing that of being like recently I've just kind of been the person that's just kind of sat and like hung out. You know what I mean? And I'm like, where did that girl go? Like Morgan Wallen, baby, where did that girl go? Like, where did that girl go? You know what I mean? I see people and I'm like, why am I not reflecting myself in that way too? Like, what am I doing right now that's making me introverted? That's making me cover up? That's making me quiet myself down and think so much. I'm thinking so much about my life and I'm thinking so much about how I'm acting. And I think that's just because of the people who I've had in my past who have shamed me or who have made me want to be smaller, who have made me embarrassed by who I am. And I think that's like my next challenge is to just truly say screw them and be myself anyway. Like, be that version of myself anyway. Laugh in a movie theater when no one else is laughing. I like my laugh. I like my laugh. I like the sound of my laugh. Sorry, I like laughing. I'm going to laugh. And if you're going to shush me, I'm going to get up and sit somewhere else. That way I can laugh on my own. Seriously, that's like going to be my thing. I'm like, if you don't want me to be the fullness of myself, that's a you problem. But I'm done shutting myself down for people who don't want to accept it, okay? I'm done. I'm done with you. Girl, bye. Boy, bye. I don't care. Living in the fullness of who you are is going to come with some challenges. Obviously, some girls might not like you. Some guys might not like you. Some people just might think you're plain annoying. Some people might just want to judge you, okay? Some people will want you to be less. But as long as you're happy with what your output is to people, that's the only thing that matters. That's the only person's opinion that matters. Your own. As long as you're content with what you're putting and giving to people, you're going to find so much more joy with the people who want to share their life with you. Because here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. When I have met new girlfriends, when I've met new guys, okay, I've tried the mysterious type. Like, I've tried, like, keeping things to myself and not being my full version and kind of being the mysterious girl. When I have been the mysterious girl, I just look like Debbie Ryan in Radio Rebel. Like, it's not cute. I feel way more awkward about what I'm doing when I'm being mysterious. Like, I'm like overly thinking everything, and then I leave and I'm like, why did I do that? Why wasn't I just like completely myself? And like, why was I trying to be mysterious and like, tucking my hair behind? Ew, like, girl, bye. That is such a joke in my personal opinion. And not that that's like I wish I could be cool being mysterious, but I'm not. Like, my personality is the opposite of mysterious. Like, it might as well just be stamped on my freaking forehead. Like, that's not a shame to the people who are mysterious. But I sit there and I'm like, when I try to be something that I am not, I'm so much more embarrassed now because that is like completely opposite of who I am. And the next time that I see this person, it's going to be like, oh, newsflash, that's not me. The person that you met is not me. I'm actually this crazy, crazy, energetic person. Ha! Tricked ya. Like, that's so weird to me because I'm like, that's not who I am. There's such a thing, like, when you are really trying to not be yourself, your skin will like cringe way more than it will if you're like authentically yourself. Because at least if you're doing something that's like low-key cringy or embarrassing, but you're fully yourself, the only thing that you have to say is like, whoop, that's me. Like, I'm not going to change that. Because then when you change that, you feel way more uncomfortable. Like, you feel way more out of your skin. The only thing that you can harm by not being yourself is yourself. Because, and here is my big kahuna finish, okay? My big kahuna, my dancers know that phrase big kahuna is known as like the crazy chunk in the dance that like is like low-key beast mode. It's the hardest chunk. That's the big kahuna, okay? So this is like this is like the big point, okay? The big kahuna, yes? God made you the way that you are for a reason. He gave you the exact personality that you have for a reason. For a reason. Whether you know that yet or whether you don't, you know why or you don't, he gave it to you for a reason. So when you be someone that is not who God created you to be, and that is so outside of who you actually are, you aren't accepting who God made you to be. Period. You aren't accepting who God made you to be. all of the characteristics that you have and who you are right now. He perfectly chose those for you for a reason. Believe it, my friend. Believe it, because he did. He made you as loud as you are for a reason. He made you as energetic as you are for a reason. He made you as funny as you are for a reason. He made you as generous, as caring, as loving, as kind, as big for a reason. And are you really going to live for what other people have to say about who you are over what God has made you for? In a way, when you live differently than God intended you to live, in a way, you are completely slapping him in the face. I know that's aggressive. Sorry. Newsflash, wake up. You're slapping him in the face. You're telling him you don't want anything to do with the version of you that he's created you to be. You're telling him, sorry, God, this version is just not what people are going to like. I don't want to live the way that you intended for me to live. I want to be quiet. I want to be mysterious. I want to be someone that doesn't live in the fullness of life that you've made me to live in. Because I just don't like that version. I don't see what's important about that version of myself. So you throw it away. And God's sitting there like, I literally made this perfect version of you. This version of you is perfect. Because I made it intentionally for you. Why are you throwing it away to live for a life for the world? My plan for you is involved with that version of yourself. And I feel like I see that a ton too when people are like, yeah, I steered away from God. And then when I found him, he brought me right back to who I was supposed to be. He doesn't judge you for going off and like completely doing that. But that doesn't mean he isn't low-key hurt by it. He's like, come on back. I'm telling you, come on back. This version of you is the one that you're going to want to come back. Come back. I know you lost. Come back. Until you find that version of you again and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, why did I even leave? Why did I do anything different? Why did I steer away from him? Bruh, what was I thinking? And then you regret everything that you did in that other version of yourself that you created for other people because it didn't fulfill you. It was full of devilish pursuits because that is the version of you that the devil is going to go after because it's not what God intended from you or for you. And you're like, okay, I don't like that version of myself. So you come back to who you are and you're like, thank you, God, for bringing me back to who I'm supposed to be. Imagine if you could just remind yourself and wake yourself up right now to being like, I don't need to create that version of myself. God intended for me to be who I am right now, who I am today, this version of myself for a reason. And people are either going to not like it or they're going to love it. And the people who don't like it are a visual representation of the people not supposed to be in my life. You can love them from afar. I'm a firm believer in that. Love them from afar. But that doesn't mean that they're supposed to be in your life. That doesn't mean that you're supposed to live that life. My gosh, I was just on fire. Holy crap. When you live in that other version of yourself, you feel way more fear of the what if you're too much like yourself. What if you're too loud? I might be embarrassed if I do that. I'm confused about who I am. Newsflash, confusion is not from God. Confusion is from the devil. That is the devil convincing you that you are not enough. And let me just tell you, if you're living in a version of yourself that is not what God created you to be, then you're living in worldly desires. You're living in literally this world that the devil has planted you in. You're feeding the demons around you because you're avoiding the version of you that God created you to be. I know that's deep. I know that's intense, but we all need to hear it sometimes. I know all this came from like just a silly Netflix movie, but it reminded me and inspired me and kind of woke me up to just being like, yeah, why am I not being myself in the fullness of who I am? So what someone thinks I'm too much? So what someone thinks I'm being too loud? So what people think I'm weird, I do not care. I live for God. LOL. I live for God. Anyways, you guys, it's important to live your life in all that you are. That's when people face regrets, is when they don't live their life as they are, for who they are. When you pretend to be other people, you waste so much more time pleasing people who are not worth pleasing than you do just living your life for yourself in the way that God created you to be, in the fullness of who you are. Take that as a reminder. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that it was just the right push to being yourself and to loving yourself and embracing yourself. And I know this isn't an easy thing. Again, we live in a time that's so judgmental. We live in a time that literally you'll walk out the street and people will judge you based off of what you wear to the grocery store. Like, might I just say, crazy. Keep your eyes to yourself. I know you got judgments on yourself. And I hope that you heal those, but don't put them on to me, please, okay? I'm just trying to get my groceries. Cheapers. Like, I know that that's such a real thing. That's such a real thing. But the sooner that you get out of that and the sooner that you love yourself for who you are, the more that embarrassment won't happen. That's my little spiel. That's my little spiel, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really do. I hope it woke you up. It inspired you to live in the fullness of who you are. That was my intention. And it kind of just inspired you. If you haven't seen that movie with Poppy Wright, listen or watch it, please. It's so good. In my personal opinion, I mean, it's cheesy, obvi, but like it's really good. And I'm a sucker for films like that. Yeah, so watch it. It'll inspire you like it inspires me. And 2026 is for Poppy Wrights. I feel like I low-key feel like every episode I've been like, this is 2026 is the year of this. 2026 is the year of that. Well, I'm saying 2026 is the year of Poppy Wright. Just saying. Like, that is how I'm being. I'm embracing it. I'm living it. And yeah, you heard it here first. Point blank, period. But anyway, you guys, I'm gonna go brace the storm on my walk back to my place. But I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you guys so very much. If you like this episode, please like, comment, share, send it to a friend, message me, do all the things, rate this podcast. Please rate this podcast, you guys. Please, 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 please rate this podcast. I would love to hear from you. I love you so very much. Go embrace your inner poppies, please. I will talk to you so incredibly soon. Bye.